We are the founders of the Cairn String Quartet. It was founded in 2007, as well as being I'm the cello player and Anne-Marie's a viola player as well. So we manage the group as well as perform in it. Our aim has always been to take classical music into the 21st century. That's our byline. And we play for weddings, corporate events, a lot of sessions. We've now started putting on our own shows and our own concerts. We do a lot of things with live bands, artists, DJs, and anything that comes along, really.
We started out when we were in third year in college, and basically, like everybody else, we had absolutely no money at all. So we took to the streets and we went busking, and we started doing it on Saturdays. We got a really good response, and eventually people started coming up and trying to hire us for their weddings. Now, we also happened to be busking outside Business Gateway at the same time, and we went in one day to apologise for the sheer amount of times we played Pachelbel's Canon in one day. And we had a wee look around and we asked them what they could do to help us. We started to figure out that if people were going to hire us off the street and knowing nothing about us, maybe if we got a website, if we started to promote ourselves in some way, we might get more gigs. So that's what we did. We went to Business Gateway and they gave us a grant, a startup grant. We entered the Principal's Pit competition in college, and we went to the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, and we entered their Principal's Pit competition, which we won, which brought us into the SIE New Ventures competition, and that's where we came across SIE.
When we started, we got our £1,000 grant from Business Gateway, and we got some money from SIE to go on our first tour, which was an outreach tour to around Scotland, to places that didn't have any string tuition and skills perhaps, or didn't have the opportunity to go to concerts or recitals that there was string playing involved in. So that was the aim of the first tour. And then the money that we got, we put towards a website, promo material. We started doing wedding shows. Wedding shows and exhibition has always been one of the key ways that we drum up wedding business. It's always been, weddings was the first thing that we ever, was the first reason really that we started to do this. Like Anne-Marie said, for money, which became a bit of a necessity for me when one day I decided to phone in sick to work and to go busking instead, because I could make more money from busking, and then looked up to see my boss putting in money into my cello case in front of me. So it was a quick, swift out of the coffee shop, and I had to try and work out how to make some money. And so we started doing weddings, corporate things, but we also realised that there's lots of other string quartets out there. There's a lot of string players within Glasgow. There's the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland is the central hub of classical music in Scotland. So we had to try and work out how we were going to get the business over everybody else, really. At the time we were working for other quartets as well on a freelance basis, and using some of their ideas, I think, but we decided that we could do it bigger and better. As people who appreciate all kinds of music and not just classical music, we started to arrange string takes on pop songs, as you probably heard in the video, which was something that always interested us. And suddenly realised that people were asking us for this all the time at their weddings, and this was a thing that we started to become known for. So we suddenly realised that was our unique selling point, and it really started to take off from there, didn't it? Yeah.
Pretty much. By the time we graduated, we found that we were really the main group in Scotland for corporate and wedding events. We found that we were just so high in demand. So we expanded, and we now have three string quartets, a 12-piece ensemble. It will be 4 by this summer. April, yeah. 16 string players. And also, we decided to dip our toes into the world of session musicians.
Again, as I said earlier, myself and Anne-Marie have always been interested in lots of different types of music, and I've always gone to gigs. I've always been part of the sort of scene within Glasgow, just watching gigs and enjoying music. And we got asked through a friend to go and do a session for a band that were around a while ago called Attic Lights, and they were being produced by a man called John McLaughlin. And when we were chatting to him, he said that he was so pleased to meet us because he was sick of flying musicians up from London to come and do sessions for him in Glasgow. And we were so confused by this because There's a music school in Glasgow. There's a wealth of musicians absolutely dying to try and get work, just struggling to get work, and we just couldn't understand why he was having to fly musicians from London. We just realised it was because people weren't promoting themselves in the correct manner. They weren't putting themselves out there, they didn't know about them, they weren't networking, and it was all about promotion, they just didn't know how to promote themselves. So from there, we decided that we were going to grasp the session scene with both hands. Me and Anne-Marie started to go to a lot of gigs, made our face known everywhere. It was really hard at times. There was going to a lot of gigs and we'd much rather have been at home in our pyjamas, but we knew we had to do it, talking to people when you didn't really know what you were going to say, and a lot of just sort of walking up to people and talking to them, a lot of nights out. That sounds brilliant, but it wasn't at times. There was just, you've got to know in the studio it's hard, it can be hard work sometimes, what's expected of you for not very much money. There's not very much money for session musicians in Glasgow, especially for small bands. There's a lot of doing things for a couple of pints. It was quite hard at the start, having to quickly think on our toes, but we knew we always had a goal in mind, and over the last couple of years we've really grown, and now are doing things that do involve more money. We've just been on tour with Echo and the Bunnymen. In October I played at the Mobos with Emily Sandy and Professor Green. Anne-Marie's about to go to Brazil to play with Ian McCulloch. We've got various bits and bobs on, so we're getting busier and busier, and it's all started to come together.
So we've also expanded to the electric string orchestra. That's our latest idea, and it's all of our quartets combined, and it's one big giant string orchestra. Just confirmed our first gig as the electric string orchestra is the 31st of May, plug, in Oranmore. And it's going to be us with special guests. Last year we did a gig in Brell with just the quartet, and we had Francis McDonald from Teenage Fan Club come along and a few other people, and we sold out all our tickets. People were queuing up at the door, and there was these glass doors in Brell in Glasgow, and people had brought their chairs up outside and were listening at the glass door because they were so keen to come. So we knew we needed a bigger venue. We needed to do it on a bigger scale. So that's Oranmore, 31st of May. And there will be some very special guests there. As the Electric String Orchestra, as Fiona said, we also did the Ocean Rain Tour for Echo and the Bunnymen. We were also the support for that as well. So we were the warm-up act for them too, as a string orchestra. We have a regular spot in Tea in the Park every year, and we'll be taking the string orchestra to it. It's previously been Cairn String Quartet. This year it'll be the Electric String Orchestra. We've been to Glastonbury, we've been to Benicassim, we've been to Florence. It's all those nights where we really wanted to be in our pyjamas has actually paid off now, and we're getting to be actually in warm countries rather than just our warm houses.
The last thing that I just wanted to mention was that we still do a lot of education outreach work. We work for, we do various things for different councils. We've done things for Highlands and Islands, West Lothian. We do kind of recruitment drives for these councils, so we go into schools and tell kids how amazing this is to be able to play one of these instruments, with the idea being that they then take up how to play violin, cello, viola. We're really quite passionate about that. That's how we started out with our first grant, and we still go out and do that. Upcoming things for the future is to build more an electric string orchestra. We've got our fourth quartet about to launch, and we brought out an album in February, which was a Valentine's Love album. No money making there to be done. And we have another electric string orchestra album coming out soon, and we also plan to launch a quartet in Ireland as well. So that's our plans for 2012. So thank you for listening.
Any questions? Don't be shy. The Beatles were famous for, when they were in the studio, as I think I told you before, George Martin said that they always ask questions. So questions are a sign of intelligence, and you're all intelligent, so ask a question.
When you went taking that and going, trying to see about getting your very first grant, how did you prepare for kind of giving your presentation in a way that would set you apart from other musical acts?
When we went to Business Gateway originally, when we went to Business Gateway, which was in 2007, it was a different setup than what they have now. It was actually it was fairly straightforward to get a grant at the time. We had to go and get headed note paper, and we had to open up a bank account. We had to do a business plan for a 5-year business plan, I think it was at the time.
5-year projection.
A 5-year projection, and talk about financial situations and things, but we didn't have to at that stage go and do a pitch to anybody, and they just had to review the business plan. And
I think it's quite important to mention as well, we were very arts and crafts to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried to hunt out some of our beginning literature for you this morning and blew all the dust off, and I couldn't find the one I was looking for, which was essentially cut out pieces of magazines all sort of photocopied on top of each other with some handwritten things. It was honestly very arts and crafts, and it was SIE that really put us on track. Once we went through to the New Ventures competition, we had Frank as our mentor, and he was absolutely fabulous. You know, he gave us so many ideas. One was a beach calendar. We haven't quite got around to that one yet. But he was so supportive. He really helped us understand that we were musicians. You know, this is unheard of in the conservatoire. They're not. They're training you to be in orchestras and soloists and things like that. And for us, we were like, we're doing weddings. We're not really, we're just making a living kind of thing. And it was SIE that actually said, no, you're entrepreneurs, go with this. This is a great idea. Keep it up. And we thought, nobody will give us money unless we do some education things. But people actually believed in us with that, and they pointed us in the right direction for expansion, different things like that.
I think as well at the start, it's really, really, really important to call in, sort of be brave and call in as many favours as you can, and repay those favours when the time comes that you can pay them. There's a lot of, we got our first promo photos done for free because he was just around the college and we begged him, and he got a bottle of whiskey for that, and we've worked together ever since. And call in just as many things as you possibly can. Don't be scared to ask, just ask and ask and ask. If you don't ask, you won't get.
There's also, you never know who you're asking and who's asking you for a favour in return. So now we're looking at, for instance, we did a favour for some people that we knew in a band, and they've just been signed to a major label, and we just went in one afternoon and did 2 tracks for them, which it's going to be a big thing for us. That album's going to do very well now. At the time we didn't know, and they were just calling in a favour to us, which we are now in the position, I suppose, to do back, and everybody will be the same with you.
So what do you think? I mean, it's easy, people get excited about the aesthetics of music and, the music, the significance or the worth or the artistic integrity and all that. Obviously that, in a sense, when it comes to business, doesn't matter, right? Because you can argue about aesthetic worth. What do you think that made what you do a solid business proposition? What do you think? What do you think makes for good business?
I think it's because we were in it and we were part of it. So we wear our product. We ourselves wear our own product. So it wasn't just like believing in your product; it was believing in yourself as well. And it was luckily there was 2 of us. So whenever one of us had a down day, the other one's propping the other one up and everything. So it's been brilliant to have a best friend as a partner because it's really
still have a best friend.
And I think as well, you've got, like Cameron said, you've got to, especially at the start, you've got to live it. You're up. It's not a 9 to 5 by any means. You are at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night sitting taking phone calls because somebody has decided to phone you at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. You cannot get away from it. That once you've decided that you're in it, and you've got to just take the bad with the good. And it's just, you're really, really living it. And we have to live it together. And there's times when we've been together for an obscene amount of time.
Which is why we've written things down today, because we spend so much time together that we tend to say the same thing, or we think the other person has said it because we thought it. So we better make some notes, or we'd just be telling you about busking all day long.
Yeah, but it is as well. When we first started together in 2007, we met because we'd gone busking because I think the friend that you'd gone with, the cello player, couldn't make it, and something went out busking, and then found there was a garage in Glasgow. We went to the garage that night, and that was the start of our friendship really, but we'd only known each other for about 6 months, I would say, before we decided to go into business together. And looking back, that was a massive risk. We didn't know each other very well. It could all have gone horribly, horribly wrong, but it didn't. And
I think also the one thing Fiona and I did, because we are friends and it's really important, is we had a partnership agreement and we had things that we believed. For instance, we set out at the very start, no one is ever to photocopy our music. Our music is always ours. No one else, no other quartet will have it. And that's it. We've never lent it to anybody. It's never been used for anything except our own purposes. And that's been the best thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
We set out very clear guidelines from the start and followed them.
Yep, and that's just what happens, and that's how our relationship works.
So that's something you planned ahead for, which obviously you have to do. In what ways did what you've done exceed your expectations, and what ways did it confound your expectations, you know, in terms of the way it evolved? Were there things you didn't think of, for instance, in terms of like the markets for your music?
Oh, there's so much we never thought of. Honestly, we really have been arts and crafts, and it's been like say yes and think of it later, like a double denim medley. You know, it's just people ask us to do things and we say yes, we can do it, and then we figure out how to do it afterwards. It's there's honestly, we've come across so many things but we've just always grasped onto it and just said, right, we can do it, we'll just have to figure out a way to do it.
I think as well something that's recently become quite hard for us, and I don't think we quite expected it, was that other people have seen what we are doing now and have suddenly jumped in the bandwagon. And so there's this like huge amount of people now kind of coming up our backs, just having copied what we do, take our idea and use it because they can see what we can do, and they want to do it too. Which is great. Like, it's great that you know, string players are getting out there and realising that there is a gap in the market, but it always means that we have to always stay one step ahead of the game, and that we've always got to have something new up our sleeve, which is exhausting at times.
So is it as simple as that, having something new? Is there anything else you think that makes you unique and gives you a competitive advantage?
I think it's just that we generally go out and have the banter with people. I think it's that we genuinely know who it is that's booking us, be it a session client, be it a wedding client. We'll go for a coffee, we'll meet them personally. We like the personal touch, and there's two of us, so there's, you know, we can do it. If we're going in the studio, we'll meet with them, we'll talk about what they want for their music, and we'll do it that way. If we're going for on stage, we'll go and see them, we'll understand the music, and I think that's quite important. We never run by the clock, we never look at the watch when we're in the studio, we just want to get the job done, and I think
get job done,
I think it's to do with word of mouth. I think no matter how many people try to copy our idea, copy our text, copy our website, there's still...
They can't be us.
Yeah.
So that's what we work on, is that the rapport that we have with people is really important to us.
Good. There you go.
How did you go about securing permission for your arrangements?
I'm sure that Duncan in the next session is going to tell you a lot about that. We actually only recently met up with Duncan to help us out because we were wanting to release our album, and he took us through the whole process, which I'm sure he can explain a lot better than either of us can. The arrangements works that we do them ourselves. We do them all ourselves. And play them and perform them, and
we don't sell them. And technically, if we don't make any money out of them, we're fine. So it's like a band doing a cover. You know, maybe going to see a band in ABC and they do a cover on stage. It's the same thing. Just because we've written down what we're going to do, we're still technically just covering a song.
Yeah, and the album that we have put out will make us very little money because so much money is going to go to the artist that actually wrote the song. So we're not actually bringing out the albums really to make a huge amount of money. It's all to do with promotion, to do with getting ourselves known for people to be putting that on their iPods and things like that.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.